Hey, Adam,
Jeez,
one
why,
thing.
why do you think they're called bumpers, Gary?
I don't know.
Because they come at the beginning, at the end, like bumpers.
Alex, you're a marketing guy. Do you like that design behind Paul? Does that sweet logo thing look pretty cool to you?
Hey, I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, that's really professional, isn't it?
Well, this is a professional podcast.
I met her in a parking lot and was handed two little Yorkies. And the only person I knew that knew Yorkies was Paul. So I called Paul and said, Paul.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SoundCloud, and subscribe today. Now it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sweet Talk, our weekly podcast here at Idaho State University's Continuing Education and Workforce Training. As always, I am your co-host, Paul Dickey, the Video Instruction Manager and Apprenticeship Coordinator here at Sweet. And Gary, do I even have to do an introduction at this point?
No,
Gary?
man, you don't. I'll just start talking.
Yeah, Gary Salazar, our director, is joining us as well. Gary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very fine. Thank you very much. It's the approach of the end of another Friday. We're halfway through the day, and the weather is actually very nice outside. I took a little walk. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. As you said, it is Friday. Why wouldn't I be doing great?
Yeah. Hey, also joining us is Angela Wilhelm. Angela is our marketing coordinator here in Sweet. Angela, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. We are gearing up for our emergency medical conference that our coworker Raylyn Price is heading up. That conference is just in a couple of weeks, and we are very, very fortunate to have Jordan Peterson as our guest today. Jordan has been a firefighter and a paramedic for the Pocatello Fire Department for the past 9 years. He is also involved in national and local charities, including the Seattle Stair Climb and Jack Gives Back. Welcome, Jordan. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here as my first podcast. I think this is a really fun experience so far.
It's just going downhill from here, Jordan.
Yeah.
Hey, that's all right. I'm enjoying myself. I'm from Pocatello. I was born and raised here. My family's from here. We're all still here. I worked all over Pocatello doing stuff within the community. I started out, I worked for the Idaho National Laboratory for a while, and then that just wasn't the direction I wanted to go. So I started off, or I guess I restarted and working in restaurants and worked my way into bars and management, working all over the service positions. And, then one day I was camping with my family, and my dad pulled me aside and he said, "Hey man, you can't retire from being a bartender. That just isn't going to work. You got to look at something, that's going to take you on in the future." And so he suggested I, take the test for the fire service. And it wasn't like a childhood dream being a fireman. It was I need to have some security in my future. So let's take this test and see where it goes. And I got on with Pocatello after the first test, and it just took off from there. I really enjoyed everything that I did. Serving the community that I grew up in is a pretty good honor to me, really. I mean, going and seeing people that I already know, where they see a familiar face coming in to help, I think provides a little bit of, I guess, brings some calm to them. And then, the paramedic idea seemed distant when I got started. It was something I thought maybe in 7 to 10 years I'd be a paramedic. And 2 years into the service for me, they said, "We're going to send some guys to paramedic school." And some coworkers urged me to put in for it. And I thought, gosh, there's no way. And I got picked. I got selected. So next, I was streamlined to the paramedic spot. I did my school, and it was a National Emergency Medical Training Center out of Boston. It was an online course, and then they sent us back for 10 days of just hitting the bricks with it. It was a tough class, but I got out of there, and I've loved my position ever since. And it's been really good to like serve my community in that aspect. It's different to go, you're helping people out on their worst days, whether it's, they sprain their ankle really bad, or it's a life-threatening event. It's usually people don't call us because they just want to say hi. They're calling us because it's a bad day for them. But that really kind of pushed me into some of the community service stuff. When I got started at the fire department, one of my coworkers was signed up for this thing called the Seattle Stair Climb.
What is
and
that?
In that first year, I had no idea what it was. It's a stair climb event. It's the world's largest on-air stair climb event, where 2,000 firefighters from all over the world come together in the Columbia Tower in downtown Seattle. And we put on our turnouts, we have our SCBA bottle, our pack on, we put our mask on, just like we'd run into a burning building, and we start climbing 1,356 stairs to the top. That originally started, it was just, some people in the community around Seattle. They did it as a fundraiser. They did it in shorts and t-shirts. And there was a firefighter in Seattle who thought, well, I want to do this in my turnouts for some reason. And then that just kind of snowballed from there. And so now all of us are like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go climb it in turnouts. But the whole time we're doing it, we spend the whole season leading up to it, we raise money. And it's for blood cancer research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Kind of how that I got involved with that is my first year that I got hired. I lost a really close friend to cancer.
Oh.
And it was terrible. She was awesome. She was so, she was an ISU cheerleader at one time. She had two little girls that really will never get to know, how awesome their mom was. She made everybody feel so included. She was just so kind to everybody. And it meant a lot to me, because it's like, what are we doing to prevent this from happening? Now, I can't cure cancer. I got the right career path, but I can raise money to give to people who can do that. And that's really kind of how this whole thing works. Nobody's going to do it. It's up to us, in my opinion. So why not raise a bunch of money and enjoy climbing stairs in the process?
Oh, that does sound like a lot of joy there, Jordan.
It is.
So Jordan, I a couple things. Number one, you probably saw my eyes light up when you said Boston, because I am from Boston.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but also you said your dad brought you aside and said, "Hey, you need to get on a career path. You should go." Was your dad a firefighter?
No. So he gave me two options. He said, you should take the civil service exam to be a fireman, or you should take the postal exam, because both of my parents retired from the post office. They were career postal workers. My dad was a carrier. My mom was a clerk. They kind of came from the era where you got a job and you stayed with that job and you retired from that job, whether you really liked it or not. You worked hard and made a living. And I was really lucky to have parents that worked really hard for me and my sisters. We didn't go without. They made sure that someone was always home when we were younger. My mom worked nights, my dad worked days, so we always had a parent in the household. And so they just had a really good idea of what we probably needed for a future. And working till 2-3 in the morning every night isn't really a good future outlook. And so they kind of pushed me towards that. And it was, I'm really grateful that he did at the time that he did, and was able to test and get a job.
So was it because of being a civil service, and is it just finding a job that has stability, or was it like finding a job that has stability and serving your community?
I think stability, serving my community, and something that I would enjoy. I talked a little bit about that. I worked at the Idaho National Laboratory for a while.
Right.
I got out of high school. I got a job as a security escort, and then I got on full time as a janitor. And 6 months later, I became a laborer. And at 19, 20 years old, I had reached really the top of where I was going to go. And when you're 20 years old, looking at retirement age of 65, that's a long time to do the same job that I didn't enjoy. I wasn't, I would go to work for a 9-10 hour shift, but the bus ride out there, the bus ride back, getting home, going to bed, getting up, going back out there, not enjoying what I was doing, just didn't really seem like it was the best route for me. And so it was a hard place to leave. It paid well. There was insurance, there was retirement involved, but luckily at that age, that didn't mean anything to me. And then fast forward to the conversation I had with my dad, where it said, you're 26 now, you should probably really consider a retirement, a future, something that's going to do that. And luckily the fire services, we're in Percy. It's a great retirement system. He's always known that, when I was in high school, I did sports medicine. Shout out to Smitty, Caroline Fari, and Brent Fari. They were, monumental in my idea of being a paramedic. That's one of the biggest reasons why I thought, yeah, I could do that. And
Really?
so, yeah, I realized that, if I'm going to be a paramedic, I got to be a fireman first. And then everything just kind of fell into place, and it was, pretty awesome the way I did.
So your dad has this conversation with you. Say, hey, you should take the fireman exam. You take the fire exam, but it wasn't your chosen career path. When did it like click and you go, this is what I want to do?
I think the very first fire I had, right? So we get this call, and it's outside of church, and somebody calls in and say they see smoke coming out of the flower bed. And so we show up, and somebody just, kicked off their cigarette into the flower bed, and it was just burning out. So it wasn't like a fire. And I was like, oh man, that's what we do. We just go to these things and, stomp out cigarette butts and things. But then my very first actual fire was the Monarch fire. And it was, one of the city's biggest fires since probably the Chief Theater. And what was really interesting is it came in at 6:30 in the morning. I was at Station 2 on North Hayes, and I remember sitting in the back seat, and my captain, Kelly Lance, is just, as cool as a cucumber, not stressing. And I'm thinking, wow, there's a fire. We got to be like worried. What do we do? I'm looking for somebody else's emotion so I can go, yeah, this is what we're supposed to do. Like, and he is just telling me what we're going to do. And we show up, and this place is on fire, and there's smoke rolling out. And it was the moment that I realized that, we're going to do the thing that nobody else is there to do, or that everybody's running away from. They need help, and we're showing up to do that. And people are looking at us like, oh man, thank goodness you guys are here. And it made me feel very proud to be a part of a profession that does that. And I realized probably that moment that, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be.
That's
cool.
That's a good story. That's a good story. So you were a firefighter, and then you went to the paramedic school, and because you go, I could do that. And you had these two people that kind of inspired you. When you got out of paramedic school, I mean, how is that? I mean, when you're a paramedic, you're showing up at a scene, and in many cases, people are in trouble. They're in trouble. How do you keep your head on when you arrive on a scene like that?
So I thought about that a lot. It was something that made me really anxious, maybe going into paramedic school, that like, gosh, there's just so many things I don't know what I'm going to face. Is it a heart attack? Is it a car wreck? Is it, it can be anything. But you go to school and you learn your scope of practice, and my responsibility was to get good at that scope of practice. I'm going to be good at what I can do, and what I can't do, I'm going to take that person to someone who can. So the other part that I thought was really important for me to understand was when we go on, sick or injured, or people who, are unhealthy, or, let's use a heart attack or something for that nature, that's been going on maybe their whole life. I didn't do that to that person. I didn't convince them to have a heart attack. I didn't convince them to, have poor health or not take their medication or to get into an accident. I didn't do any of that. The only thing that I'm doing is that scope of practice that I went to school to get good at, so I can provide them the care that I can give them the best that I can. And then from that point, I can take them to somebody else, like, the nurses and the doctors in the emergency room, who have a bigger scope of practice that can do more. And so while they're in my care, I can only do the best job that I can.
You feel sometimes that when they're in your care and you have to hand them off to someone, that you go, I should be doing more, because they're in a place that you go, they still need help, but you are handing them over. But do you still feel that kind of like, I don't want to let go?
There's times, you always want to do more. In the position that we're in, whether it's being paramedics or just in emergency medicine or medicine in general, you're there because you want to help people and do the best you can for them. And even though I can, fulfill everything that I'm supposed to do as a paramedic within my scope of practice, I still, and they're still hurting or there's still a problem and I can't do anything about it. There is still that little moment of like helplessness, but that's going to be solved by getting them to the people that can help that.
Excellent.
Right.
So go ahead, Gary.
Yeah. What I just want to say, thank you for all of that, Jordan. I mean, I think you've summarized what I see in a lot of firefighters, EMT, paramedic personnel. There's a strong sense of that expertise that comes in, but you're giving back and you're helping others, who need that help at that time. So thank you for that. I think it's a fantastic profession for you to grow in and retire from later on, like your dad said, and you'll be able to look back and go, I made a difference in a bunch of lives. And I think truly you do. We're getting close to the end, but there's some other things we want to make sure we cover here. You've been asked and you gravely accepted the role of becoming our master of ceremonies at our upcoming emergency medicine conference. So thank you for that. For those of you who are listening or watching here, you're going to see him again. But in addition to all that he's going to do for us in supporting that, I want to bring something back to a comment he made earlier. Paul, he had mentioned, the 1,356 steps in Seattle.
Sounds very tiring.
Oh yeah, but there's another thing. This man gives back to another group, and you said it was Jack Gives Back.
It's Help Jack Give Back.
What is that? What does Jack give? Help him.
It's a pretty incredible story, but I'll give you just the keynotes here. My nephew, when he was 5, was camping with my sister and her husband, and they were in Island Park, and Jack was new to riding his bicycle, and they were just out through the campground, and the truck and trailer was coming through, and everyone moved to the side like they're supposed to, and the truck was going only as fast as they were allowed to. They weren't speeding or being reckless. Jack just turned around to look and fell over and got run over by the fifth wheel. And it was a very traumatic accident. It was a near-death experience for him. And he, from the accident in Island Park until he got to Primary Children's in Salt Lake, just a couple hours, he needed 11 units of blood. And that's more than any of us have in our body right now. And so imagine that in a 5-year-old, how much he's bleeding and how much he needs donated blood. Well, while he's down at Primary Children's, he was in there for, over 100 days. He went through more surgeries than we can count. I bet my sister knows exactly how many surgeries, but the amount of blood that he received was totally reliant on the amount of blood that we donate. And so once Jack, was able to talk and come up with his own ideas and start talking to everybody again, he mentioned, as a 5-year-old, he mentioned that he wanted to give back to all the people that gave blood for him. And so we just took that idea, and he said, I want to do a blood drive. And so we started doing a blood drive, and we just did our 3rd annual blood drive. I think we ended up with 86 or 88 units of blood. I think overall we've rounded up maybe 300 units of blood in 3 years. But another thing, while he was down there, he's in Primary Children's, and he hears this, kid crying across the hall, and he's got Play-Doh in his hands. And he tells my sister, Mom, I need you to go to Walmart and buy all the Play-Doh. And my sister goes, Jack, you have all the Play-Doh. And he goes, no, it's not for me. It's for the kid that's crying, because Play-Doh makes me happy. So that inspired the toy drive that we do for Primary Children's.
Oh, cool.
And one of the things that was important about that is my sister always noticed that it's not just, Utah plates at Primary Children's. She's walking through every morning that there's Bannock County plates, there's Bingham County, there's Idaho plates, So it's right around Christmas time is when that toy drive goes on. So the kids at Primary Children's can have toys over Christmas.
Yeah. How cool.
And so in the fall, we do the backpack program.
Yeah. How is Jack?
Oh, so that's an important part of the story that a lot of people always want to know. So Jack multiple times, doctors told my sister Jack wasn't going to make it. He crushed his pelvis, his femur, or skin and tissue and muscle from his leg, lost a ton of blood. You would never know that Jack was involved in an accident. The people at Primary Children's did such an incredible job that he runs, he plays, he's on a basketball team, he jumps off couches, he makes my sister a nervous wreck when he does all this. But he's just such a happy, awesome kid that you'd never know he had been in an accident.
You
Wow.
just made my day today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is such a cool story up there, and you've had 2 or 3 great stories during this podcast. We are going to be wrapping this up soon, and because you've talked so well on these things, Jordan, if somebody wanted to learn more about the steps or Seattle project that you're involved with, or maybe helping Jack give back, or something that you're doing as a firefighter or as a paramedic, would you be okay sharing information on that here on the podcast, and people could reach out and check in with you on that?
Yeah, we have a Help Jack Give Back Facebook page.
Mhm.
That's the best way to get information. We're always posting about what we're doing next on there. You can reach out to me on Facebook, just at Jordan Peterson. You usually can see my face right on the profile picture.
Right.
For the stair climb, we have a fundraiser on the 29th, the night of the conference, at Star Route Brewery. We have live music by Henry Gonzalez.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we're gonna have smoked meats and live music, and Star Route Brewery is providing their beers. It's gonna be a good time. It's the 3rd time we've done it. It's usually a blast.
Wow.
That
now,
is
if we can
cool.
just get no snow, that's kind of the goal. We
Oh.
got to be over that.
Yeah. I'm sure. So George's going to be the MC for the emergency medical conference. Angie, remind us, when is that conference, and how, if people are interested, how they might contact us about that?
The conference is April 27th through the 29th. The 27th is a pre-conference. The general conference is the 28th and the 29th. There are training and/or contact hours available for that if anyone needs their training and contact hours. The general session is only $45, and that includes a wilderness emergency medicine component on Saturday. If you would like more information, or you would like to register for that conference, you can do so at cetrain.isu.edu/EMC.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Really good job.
I got one last question for Jordan. One last question. I know we're going over. Jordan, why'd you say yes?
Somehow I just end up doing this all the time. I mean, I don't MC events all the time, but people think, hey, why not ask Jordan to do it all? He'll say yes.
Yeah.
It's like Mikey with the cereal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, well,
right.
It's been a pleasure, Jordan. Thank you for saying yes to this as well. We look forward to seeing you at the Emergency Medicine Conference and at your next climbing event. This is going to be awesome. Paul, you want to wrap it up with Angela?
Yes,
or
I'll
what?
wrap it up. And if anyone is interested in any of our other programs we have here at CEWT, they can go to our website at cetrain.isu.edu. You can email us at cetrain@isu.edu, or give us a phone call at 208-282-3372. And if you liked this podcast and want to share, please do so. It's much appreciated. And Angie, thank you so much. Jordan, thank you for joining us. And Gary, can't do this without
Awesome,
you, man.
Thank you all.
So
Angela?
I have to point something out real quick for those of you who really enjoyed this interview and are looking at the same career path as Jordan. We at CE Train do have EMT courses. We have a basic and an advanced, and I believe Idaho State University also has a firefighting component as well. So if you're interested in the same type of career that Jordan has, please reach out to us.
That was
Awesome.
my
Thank
first
you.
start.
Yeah.
That was my first start through ISU.
Excellent. Thank you. See, endorsement. We just got an endorsement.
All right.
Right.
You all be
Thank
good
you,
out there.
everyone. Be safe.